Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to absolute silence. No traffic,
No airplanes, no voices from the apartment next door, no messages, no footsteps. But there is one bigger problem. There is nobody left to wake up.
8 billion human beings have vanished overnight. No bodies, no warning, no explanation, just an empty planet. At first, Earth would barely notice. Lights would still glow across cities. Cars would remain parked in the streets. Phones would still search for signals. Elevators would wait for passengers who would never arrive. But the world we built was never designed to survive without us, and within hours, it would begin to fall apart. During the first few hours, millions of machines would continue operating automatically. Power stations would keep producing electricity. Water would still flow through pipes. Traffic lights would continue changing from red to green for empty streets. Satellites would continue orbiting hundreds of kilometers above Earth. For a few strange hours, civilization would look completely normal.
Except no one would be there. Then the failures would begin. Aircraft already in the sky would eventually run out of fuel or crash without pilots.
Ships would drift across oceans. Trains would stop wherever their automated systems failed. Cars left running would empty their fuel tanks. But one of the biggest changes would happen underground. Cities like New York, London, and Tokyo constantly pump groundwater out of tunnels and subway systems. Without people maintaining those pumps, water would slowly begin moving back in. Within days, some underground stations would start flooding, and darkness would spread. Most electrical grids require constant human supervision. When demand changes, generators have to adjust. Without engineers, technicians, and operators, small failures would cascade through the system. One neighborhood would go dark, then another, then an entire city. Within days or weeks, much of the planet would lose electricity. At night, something humans have not seen for centuries would return. True darkness. From space, the glowing web of human civilization would slowly disappear. But while our cities were going dark, another world would begin waking up.
Animals would notice almost immediately. Dogs trapped inside homes would struggle first. Some would escape through broken windows or doors, others wouldn't. Livestock would face an even greater disaster.
Billions of chickens, pigs, and cattle depend completely on humans for food, water, and protection. Many would die within days, but the survivors would begin changing. Dogs would form packs. Pigs would escape farms and become increasingly wild. Horses would break through fences, and animals that once avoided human neighborhoods would begin entering them. Deer would walk through suburbs. Wild boars would search abandoned supermarkets.
Coyotes and wolves would move into streets. In some regions, bears would explore empty towns. Nature would realize that its most dangerous competitor had disappeared.
1 week after humanity vanished, our civilization would already feel different. Garbage would remain in streets. Food would rot inside supermarkets. Refrigerators would stop working. Fires started by electrical failures, industrial accidents, or abandoned cooking equipment could burn entire neighborhoods. Normally, firefighters would stop them. Now, nobody would. Some cities could experience enormous, uncontrolled fires. At the same time, chemical plants, oil refineries, and factories would begin failing. Storage tanks could leak. Pipelines could rupture. Toxic chemicals could enter rivers. For a short period, humanity's disappearance might actually make parts of Earth more dangerous. And then there are nuclear power plants. Modern reactors are designed to shut down automatically during emergencies.
But shutting down a reactor is not the same as abandoning it forever. Spent nuclear fuel still requires cooling. Backup generators require fuel. Systems require maintenance.
Some facilities could remain safe. Others might eventually experience serious failures. Humanity would be gone, but some of our machines could continue causing damage long after us. Now jump forward 1 year. The world is quieter, much quieter. Grass has pushed through cracks in sidewalks. Seeds carried by wind have landed in gutters, rooftops, and parking lots. Small plants are growing in places where concrete once seemed permanent. Without maintenance, roads begin breaking apart.
Water freezes inside, cracks, expands, and slowly destroys the pavement. Tree roots push upward. Vines climb abandoned buildings. Cars rust beneath leaves and rain.
Inside houses, mold spreads across walls. Roofs begin leaking. Wood begins rotting, and insects multiply. The city is becoming an ecosystem, not an empty one, a new one. Many domesticated species would struggle, but wildlife populations could explode. Fish would return to waterways where industrial pollution had stopped. Birds would nest in buildings.
Predators would expand into areas they had avoided for generations. The strange thing is that some animals might actually prefer our abandoned cities. Skyscrapers would become artificial cliffs.
Balconies would become nesting sites. Parks would become forests. Highways would become migration routes. Human civilization would slowly become habitat. Now imagine returning 100 years after humanity disappeared. You might recognize some cities, but barely. Most houses would be gone. Wooden buildings would collapse first. Steel structures would survive longer, but rust would slowly attack them.
Bridges would weaken. Roofs would collapse. Windows would shatter. Trees would grow inside office buildings. Flooded subway tunnels could undermine streets above them.
Entire sections of cities might suddenly collapse into underground cavities. Places that once held millions of people could become forests filled with concrete ruins. Some landmarks would survive longer. Massive stone structures could remain for centuries.
Certain monuments might stand for thousands of years, but the glass towers that once represented modern civilization would be temporary. Without maintenance, nature always wins.
Now move forward 1,000 years. Most modern cities would be extremely difficult to recognize. Coastlines may have changed. Rivers may have shifted. Forests would cover enormous areas that once contained roads, farms, and suburbs. Most steel would have corroded. Cars would be little more than fragments of metal and plastic buried beneath soil. Our homes would be gone. Our shopping malls would be gone. Our airports would be gone. But not everything we created would disappear. Plastic would remain. Ceramics could survive. Glass could survive in fragments. Massive concrete foundations could still exist underground. And perhaps the most mysterious objects would still be moving above Earth. Satellites. Low-orbit satellites would eventually fall back through the atmosphere, but some satellites in very high orbits could remain for thousands or even millions of years. Silent machines circling a planet that no longer remembers who built them.
And then comes the question that makes this story truly strange. What happens after 10,000 years? By then, nature would have erased almost every obvious sign of our daily lives.
New forests would cover old cities. Rivers would flow through places where highways once existed. Animals would evolve without human pressure. Species that we once hunted might spread across huge territories. Some animals could even evolve into completely new forms, but traces of humanity would remain hidden everywhere. Deep underground, Future creatures might find strange layers filled with plastic, metal, concrete, and radioactive materials. They would discover evidence that something enormous happened to Earth, a geological fingerprint created by one species, us. Perhaps millions of years later, an intelligent species could appear, maybe descended from animals alive today. And one day, they might dig into the ground and discover something impossible, a perfectly shaped piece of glass, a strange alloy, a buried tunnel, the remains of a city. They might wonder who built it. Where did they go? Were they destroyed? Did they leave the planet? Or did they simply disappear?
And here is the uncomfortable part. Earth does not need us. We need Earth.
For thousands of years, humans have transformed forests, redirected rivers, removed mountains, built cities, and covered the night side of the planet with light. It can feel as if the world belongs to us. But if humanity disappeared tomorrow, the planet would not stop. The oceans would continue moving. Rain would continue falling. Forests would continue growing. Animals would continue evolving. Seasons would continue changing. Our civilization might dominate Earth today.
But on the geological time scale, cities are temporary. Roads are temporary. Borders are temporary.
Even skyscrapers are temporary. Eventually, almost everything we built would disappear. And after 10,000 years, the most powerful civilization Earth has ever seen might exist only as strange ruins buried beneath a forest. So the next time you walk through a city filled with millions of people, cars, lights, and buildings, remember this. Almost everything around you survives because someone is constantly maintaining it.
Civilization is not permanent. It is something 8 billion humans rebuild every single day. And if we suddenly stopped, nature would begin taking it back tomorrow.